Okay, Madam Chair, we are now on live stream.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, committee members. And we're amazed. We have, as of now, 18 guests sign up, and we had 25 people say that they would like to participate. And just as some background, holding a meeting of this type in a virtual format is very challenging. We have many speakers, and therefore each will be limited to 1 minute. Your audio will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak, and you will hear a bell tone when your time is nearing the 1 minute mark. After the 1 minute mark, you will be muted again. And once all have had the opportunity to speak, the public portion will be closed. You may remain at the meeting and listen to the discussion among board members and the presenters. And you may remain in the meeting, and the YouTube live stream will also be available if you would like to watch later on. The YouTube channel information was provided in the email or in the mailing you received, or you can also get it by emailing bk10@cb.nyc.gov. We ask that you be respectful of everyone's time, and if your question or comments have already been raised, we ask that you know when you don't say it when you're called upon. You will have the option to pass on your speaking time if that works. And since this is a formal process of part of the City Council's uniform land use review procedure, we will only be discussing this site today. So thank you all. And I just want to repeat that the district office did a mailing of over 2,500 residents and business in the immediate area, and we thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Doris. So I see that Richard Lobel is here, and Councilmember Brannan is here. I know that Councilman, I don't know if you want to speak before the presentation. I don't know what your schedule is this evening.
I can wait till after, it's fine.
Okay, great. Doris, I'll give it back to you.
Okay, we will turn it over to Richard Lobel and hear his presentation on the rezoning of ULUP reference numbers 190-447 ZMK and 190-448 ZMK.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, and good evening to the members of the Land Use Committee. Once again, Richard Lobel from Sheldon Lobel. I'm joined by Fan Baton from my office, who is going to be sharing her screen, as well as Rob Green from Equity Environmental, who can answer any environmental questions regarding the proposal. We're also joined by the applicant. I believe that Ankit is on the line, and so we can answer any questions that are posed by the committee. Once again, we're here for the 9114 Fifth Avenue rezoning. You can scroll through, Fan. So the zoning map here, as we've discussed before, is the property is located within a CA2 district within the Bay Ridge Special District. CA2 district permits automotive uses, intensive commercial uses, does not permit residential. So as has previously been discussed, a hotel would be available here as of right. Ankit actually has approved plans from the Department of Buildings for that. And then after many discussions with the community and different stakeholders, this rezoning came about. And so the rezoning now sought is to allow for mixed use residential and commercial development. Next slide. So you can see what the proposal would entail and what the area covered by the rezoning would be. This would be to an R7A with a C24 commercial overlay. The R7A district is equivalent to several of the districts in the area. Particularly, there's R7A further north and west of the property. There's R6 equivalents, which allow up to a 4.8 FAR. And so here we'd have an R7A on a discrete corner along Fifth Avenue. You can see in a larger area, the zoning district would travel along Fifth Avenue as well as 92nd Street and would encompass roughly 11 to 12 properties. These are relatively small properties, so the actual lot area that's covered by the rezoning is not great. It's roughly 24,000 square feet, of which the development site is roughly 9,300 square feet. You can see that the zoning district boundary roughly equates to the land use in that corner, which is currently there's 2 empty lots, vacant lots, which are owned by the applicant. And then there's about 8 or 9 additional lots, and those lots are multifamily or have some sort of mixed use on them. None of those residential uses are currently conforming in the CA2 district. All of them would be conforming uses within the rezoned area. So as we've discussed, it's kind of one of the benefits of the proposal. You can keep going, Fan. So to quickly page through, you can take a look at the development site. These are some of there's the used car lot and some of the vacant lots, as well as some of the mixed use residential and commercial buildings. This is what would be effectuated by the rezoning. So you can see on that area between 4th and 5th Avenues, north of 92nd, right now you have a CA2 district. After the rezoning, you would have this corner, which would be R7A. To give you context, there's an R6B across the street. Obviously, the school's across the street, which is a relatively large building for an R6B district. It is 4 stories, but it's built very tall. So I think the numbers we've seen is that it goes to somewhere between 60 and 70 feet. And you also have residential districts along 4th Avenue to the west. These are the zoning calculations and the plans. Just to run through briefly, this demonstrates what the current proposal would entail on the development site, as well as what the surrounding uses are. So this is a site plan showing what would be in the intention. The property wraps around. You can see in an inverted L from 5th Avenue around to 92nd. There would be a 1-story commercial portion, which would carry through on the 92nd Street side, as well as through to 5th Avenue. And then the bulk of the building, the 9 stories, really 8 stories above with residential, would be along 5th Avenue on the wider street. And so just to page through the site plan and floor plans, you can see the ground floor plan would contain roughly 8,400, I think maybe slightly more than that, of commercial square footage with a small residential lobby totaling roughly 1,400 square feet. And then you have the unit mixes as you go up the building. So in the first story, there's roughly 5 studios with one bedroom and 1 2-bedroom. And then as you go up, there's a typical mix of 1-bedrooms and 2-bedrooms. The total unit count for this proposal is roughly 41 units, which would include, as per mandatory inclusionary housing, roughly 11 units of inclusionary housing at various levels. The bedroom mix here is relatively generous as far as the square footages are concerned. There's roughly 36,000 square feet of residential in the building for roughly 41 units. So it's a fairly good square footage per unit. Van, you can keep going. And then you have the building in section and elevation. So you can see what the, how the building would fit within the streetscape of the surrounding area. So there's kind of an eagle eye view of the surrounding area, the building, how that would sit. You can see it across from the school, both those buildings being fairly prominent within that surrounding area. And again, just to kind of summarize, the CA2 under the existing Bay Ridge Special District regulations would allow anywhere from a 3 to a 4.8 FAR for current building types with a maximum height of roughly 70 feet. So at 70 feet or 7 stories, the proposed building would exceed that by roughly 2 stories. This is a 9-story building you see in front of you. And so, the discussion prior to this time was that, in good faith, the applicant did have a hotel, was intending to do a hotel, and after further conversation, we came in with this proposal. So that's really kind of a summary of what we've put before the committee before, and we're happy to answer any specific questions.
Thank you. Councilman, would you like to jump in now?
Sure, thank you. So thank you guys so much. So 9114 Fifth Avenue is an interesting one. The lot, which has been vacant for several decades, as long as I can remember, as was mentioned here, was purchased by a local ophthalmologist and developer. His plan was to build a hotel, and because of an unfortunate blind spot in the 2004 Special Bay Ridge District zoning law, a developer can build a hotel here as of right, but he could not build housing here as of right. So if he wants to build housing, he'd have to get a rezoning. That just didn't make any sense to me. Naturally, a lot of folks were up in arms because many felt that a hotel across the street from a school wasn't ideal. And I certainly struggled to disagree. I think we need a lot of stuff in Bay Ridge, but never heard anyone say that they think we need another hotel, and certainly not across the street from a school. So my first idea was to see if the school construction authority might be interested in this lot. And I reached out to them and they came and took a look. After their review, they said it was too small to build a school here. Understanding that I think to you and I, a lot that might seem big enough to build a school, unfortunately, is not always what the school's construction authority thinks and what they need, the space that they need to build a school. So once, sort of the anti-hotel protests subsided, I sat down with a developer and I tried to convince him that what we really needed here was housing, rental housing. And we did not need a hotel. But in order to do that, we have to rezone the lot. So that's what we did. And I have to say that throughout this whole process, the developer has played his cards face up. Even though he's allowed to build a hotel here, 7 or 8 story hotel would be allowed, and there would be nothing we could do about it because he could build it as of right. He didn't want to build something that the community didn't want, which is more than I can say for a lot of developers. A lot of horror stories out there where the developer can build as of right. Well, they're going to go ahead and do it, and unfortunately, there wouldn't be really anything that I or the community board could do. So I appreciated that he was willing to listen and take into consideration what the community was saying. And that's why we're here today. And I think this represents a lot of hard work, a lot of back and forth, and really as good a compromise as you can get. The developer owns this lot now, purchased this lot, and has a right to build something on this lot. So I'm thankful that he was willing to work with us to not build a hotel, but to build housing and to get some affordable units out of it as well, which we desperately need. So look, I'll say threading the needle between preserving our existing small town neighborhood character while meeting this truly desperate need for more housing is not easy. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of oversight, but it's something that I am certainly dedicated to getting right with the guidance and the counsel of the community board. And I think that this is really the best of both worlds. So I'm happy that we've been able to get this far, and certainly look forward to hearing what the community board has to say about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to make one comment. I'm going to nitpick it. You said that I just want to, because we have many guests who are not familiar with our process. This
Sure.
property is not yet rezoned.
No.
we are in the process of going through the rezoning, which is what the universal land review procedure is.
Correct. So
we're
the
in the
developer,
process.
right, so as it stands right now, the developer could build
Build
a
a hotel.
hotel. We're doing this rezoning to prevent that,
Yes.
and allow him to build housing.
Okay.
Great. So Doris, I guess I'll go through the list of speakers, people who signed up to ask questions or to speak. The next speaker is Ina Gusenfeld from Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams' office.
Hi, good evening, members of Community Board 10. Good evening, Councilmember Brannan. Good evening, Rich Lobel. I just want to quickly announce, as I stated in the previous meeting, that Borough President's hearing on this agenda, on this item, will be held on Tuesday, November 10th. And I did share the agenda with Josephine.
Yes, I got that email today and I will be emailing that out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions about that via email or at some other time.
Okay, great. Doris, so I guess I'll proceed. Jake Goldfinger is here from Assembly Member Matilda Frontis's office. I am going to mute him. I think he's in the attendees. Jacob, I don't know if you wanted to speak.
No, thank you. I'm here to listen mainly. I appreciate
Okay, great.
it.
Great,
Thank you.
great. Next, so we have about 30 people who signed up to speak, so we'll go through these one at a time. George Jorkalis. George, welcome.
Hi, Josephine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Board, Councilman Brennan, thank you for your efforts. I'm going to make it quick. My name is George Georgiaklis. I own the property immediately adjacent to the 5th Avenue parcel. It's lot 26. I also maintain my law practice at the location. Just want to give my support for the rezoning. I want to thank Councilman Brennan for his efforts in getting this done. And one important piece to this whole thing is that the hotel that could be built here, as of right, would have also had a substantial size to it as well. So just ask the board to keep that in mind. And again, as the neighbor, I want to welcome Ankit to the neighborhood and wish him best of luck with this development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Asmalis. Sorry, bear with me, Gus.
Oh.
I'm sorry about that. I was having some technical issues. Gus, you're on?
I think I'm on now.
Okay, great. Welcome. Good to hear you.
It's good to see everybody. I was really here as an observer. I just wanted to see what's happening. I happen to be George's partner and interested in, the neighborhood, obviously. So, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for their efforts. And it's nice to even on a virtual basis to see everyone. I hope everyone's safe and healthy.
Great.
Good
Thank
to see
you.
you too, George. Gus, good to see you.
Same here.
Okay, next we have Ralph Sakar. I believe I saw him. And Joanna Sakar. Joanna, is this you? Joanna Sakar?
I'm here. Both of us are here.
Both of you are there? Okay. Hi, Ralph. Hi,
yeah.
Joanna. You're the next two up to speak.
Thank you.
I'll ask a question.
First of all, thank you, Justin, for the update. And thank you for not having the hotel there. I was very much against it. My only concern is the 41 units additional for parking. My only concern of congestion in that corner, as usual, as I pre-said it before, because of school. I don't have any objection of anybody building anything that is it's really beautiful building that's going to be, if it goes through. I'm not against it at all, but I just want to present that Bay Ridge is tight, and that is a very concerned corner. And I wish everyone the best of luck, and it's nice to see everyone healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Giuseppe Anzalone. Let me see if he is on. Giuseppe, if you are here, can you raise your hand, I guess? If not, I will get back to you. I'll go on to the next. Oh, I see a board member who's on the Anthony Marino, who's joined us. Okay. I'll put Giuseppe aside. Ruth Redondo. I do not see Ruth.
Just for some background, Josephine is going through the list of people who said they were going to speak
Right, who registered.
on the attendees list.
Okay, I see Charles. I had Charles Shenfield. Just having a little bit of a technical glitch here. Okay, Charles, you should be able to be speaking now.
Yes, I don't have any particular objections to this particular construction, given the residential units that are going in as opposed to the hotel. However, I have a big concern about the rezoning of the adjacent lots, because if you see this one and 2 years from now, you'd have two construction sites just waiting right next door to it on either side. And then you're going to be building 7 stories on that side and 7 stories on the other side. And that's not going to be very good for Bay Ridge. It's going to really give it a heck of a lot of congestion. There's no parking facilities available, nothing. And so I like Bay Ridge in its current form, and a 7-story building. I had to swallow a little bit, but I see on the other 2 blocks away, they've got another one. And I don't think it's going to ruin anything. Being on 5th Avenue, this one bordering on 4th Avenue might be a little more of a challenge. But again, the cars passing back and forth and the school being across the street, when you have all these children, I don't know how this is going to work out in the future. This particular construction, probably okay. But anything rezoning around it, once you rezone those other areas, you're opening them up for another construction site to the left or to the right of it. And that's going to be a real mess. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay,
Hello,
thank you.
Josephine. Nice seeing you again.
It's nice to hear your voice, Charles. I was happy to see you register. It's been a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I don't know if Doris, you wanted to, we'll just keep going through the
Yes,
list of people.
I
Okay.
just want to comment on Charles's comments. They were concerns that the committee has had and will be further discussed.
Okay, so my next speaker was Ruth Redondo. Ruth, have you here? I guess I'm having difficulty because there's a lot of phone numbers and not names ascribed to some of the attendees, so I'm trying to just match. So next I'll take Beatrice Turnbull. Beatrice? Beatrice, you just have to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. Beatrice, you would just have to unmute yourself at your lower panel to take yourself on mute? I did, I allowed to speak. Mhm. Okay, I guess I will move on. Brian Leonard. Brian, you could go ahead to speak.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
I have some concerns about the parking and also some future development that's projected for the site where KFC is today, like 9201 Fifth Avenue. Both of them were out there and I believe are requesting for no parking to be as part of the development. And we have a school right there and we have the traffic that goes to the Verrazano Bridge. So you're talking about adding, 40 plus units in that. And then the upcoming medical facility at KFC. I think it's going to be a recipe for disaster with traffic and a danger to the children.
Thank you. Doris?
Yes, we are very aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I don't want to miss anyone. Ruth, if you're here, if you're, you just raise your hand. Okay, then I'll skip on to the next person. Allison Martin. Okay. Leon Ensinowich. Leon, I just clicked you on. You'll be able to talk. You just have to unmute yourself if you would like to speak. Leon? Okay, I don't know if they're having technical issues. But we'll
Joe,
get
they
that.
can just, if they're on a computer, they can just hit the space bar and hold it. That will also unmute it.
Yeah, okay. So Leon, if you could hear us, if you want to hold your space bar down, you can unmute yourself that way. Okay, I'm going to move on then to the next person. Jennifer Moore. Jennifer, would you like to say something? I just unmuted you. I don't know if there's an issue. Okay, so I see from Gregory Lopez, 9 stories is very out of character for the neighborhood and may set the precedent for more high-story luxury apartments in the future. While more housing is welcome, 9-story buildings may open the door for fundamentally changing the character of Bay Ridge. And Gregory Lopez did write, why 9 stories instead of 6 or 7?
Well, I can answer that.
Okay.
If they rezone to R7A, 7 stories are permitted, but under the mandatory inclusionary housing program, by including affordable housing, they are allowed a bonus of extra height in order to compensate for the affordable housing. It's a citywide program, and it helps to encourage affordable housing. Although I would say the committee was not thrilled with it.
Okay. Allison Martin. Allison?
Hi, sorry, I'm just tuning in. I had a little technical difficulty.
Oh.
My issue is that I watched the last meeting via the YouTube, and they're saying that there's no, and I also was looking over the contract that was sent over via email, and they're saying that there's no intent to develop on the other adjacent lots, which I find interesting because after looking up online, one of the adjacent lots, which is directly across the street on 90, see address here, on 96 9201 Fifth Avenue. It's already listed up, there's already space listed up for lease. And it says this property is located at the hard corner of Fifth Avenue and 92nd Street in the heart of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, a dense live workplace urban community. The location is great for walkers as well as transit and car commuters. The site is located one short block from the R-Line subway station and minutes from the Verrazano Bridge, Brooklyn Queens Expressway, and the Belt Parkway. Available now up to 31,500 square feet of AAA retail, medical, office, school space in a brand new elevated and sprinklered commercial building with parking. The building, when built, will boast approximately 200 feet of wraparound frontage on Fifth Avenue and 92nd Street. The prestigious building will feature excellent visibility from all directions as tens of thousands of cars pass the site daily, being a corner property. So, I mean, it's already being advertised that this is going to be leased and developed directly across the street. And it says the property address 9201 4th. The alternate addresses are 9202 5th and 402 through 424 92nd Street. Office with commercial 7 to 19 stories.
Right. So Allison, 9201 Fifth Avenue is not part of this application and is not part of this rezoning effort. It is a completely separate matter. That was an as of right development project that's not part of this application.
But if it's rezoned, then it's in the zoning area. So will not.
No, it's not within this rezoning area.
So that won't. So if they rezone this, it won't allow.
No, it will not. Not on this lot. No.
Thank you, Josie.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next, I have Louis Kokias. Louis, I see you here. Louis, you are now. If you would like to speak, you could take yourself off mute, holding down the bar, or unmuting yourself if you hover over the lower portion of your screen. Louis? Okay. We'll go back to Louis. Sorry. Very hard to. Yeah. Leon? Leon, I'm going to go back to you. Leon, would you like to make a comment this evening? Okay. All right. So I think that if there's anyone that would like to speak, if you could use the hand raise function who have not spoken yet, that's not the script, that would be great.
Joe, I
Yes.
saw in the chat that Beatrice Turnbull said she's back. She was bumped off somehow, so.
Oh, okay. I'll put
she
Beatrice
wanted
back
to
on.
speak.
Okay, Beatrice, you're on. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can address the committee, the Zoning and Land Use Committee. Beatrice? You can also press the space bar and hold it down. I guess she's still having, maybe you could write your question in the question and answer. And we could take a look at it. Okay, I don't know. I guess Beatrice is having some technical difficulties. I really apologize. Abby Krantz. Let me see. Let's let's see, I know Beatrice, oh, my goodness. All right, if Abby Krantz is on, if you want to raise your hand. If not, I guess we'll move to, I don't see Mary Martin here. Okay. So we'll move to the next speaker. We'll move to Mustafa Abulasan. Mustafa? If you'd like to speak, you can unmute your speaker.
Yes, good evening to the representatives that represent Bay Ridge community. Richard LaBelle, this is a question for you. How long have you known about this property? When did the developer come to you and about this property?
Application probably was brought about a year and 2 months ago.
A year and 2 months ago, okay. Because as Josephine Beckman knows, there was a property next door to my house that the developer stole my driveway. Now, this is in relation to the your development site, because the way the developers work is that they have concocted relationships with example like Vincent Gentili or Marty Golden, and they went in hand. So when Justin Brennan came on, it's like he already organized a deal with you and him how this relationship's going to go work out. And Doris, and Justin Beckman, you should be for the community and fight and not allow this property to go forward.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. Okay, Allison Martin. Allison, you're on if you want to.
Sorry, not really.
Okay.
So another question that I had was, I have a few questions. For now, the other question that I had was, in the last meeting that I watched via YouTube, one of the I believe it was Anthony, asked about the gas station being on the property, and I believe Richard said it was only a small portion that was on the property. According to public records, that gas station has been sold. Do we know who acquired this? Was it any of the property developers, or do we know if one of the the developer purchased this land? Because according to public record, that gas station has been sold as of recent. I know that Anthony brought it up in the meeting, and Richard was saying that it didn't matter because it was only in a small portion of the land.
Right. I don't have any information on that, if it was recently sold. I don't know if Richard, I mean, it's not, I don't believe it's part of.
I can confirm, the gas station wasn't sold to the applicant. It's somebody else purchased it.
Okay, because there's a lot of property. If you go on, there's a lot of property around that area. I have numerous addresses in the direct vicinity, all the way going to 8904, I believe, and 4th, and which they actually have these properties. There's a company, it's called, they don't, so what Richard was saying is that the property developer only has this one property, and he's not interested in purchasing other properties. There is a company that is called, let's see what their name is.
Right.
This is important information, but we very much are just focusing on this application.
It is to do with this application. Basically, this company, what they do is they put the deals together. So all these, it raises some red flags, because if all the properties in the vicinity that are bordering this one have been sold and are being redeveloped.
Within the rezoning area?
It's not just the gas station. There's
Right.
numerous properties.
Yes, no, we are. Thank you very much, Allison. I will have Richard respond to that. Thank you.
Sure. So just to answer Allison's comment. So first of all, if Fayenne wants to bring up the map, I don't know if it's necessary, but you can take a look on the land use map. It shows the rezoning district boundary. And so let's just go back to the colored map, Fayenne.
Yep. A little slow. 1 second.
Doing great.
Keeps. Oh,
Okay. So, right. So
map
be able to focus in. So you can see the gas station kind of in like a pale purple. So that where that arrow is right there, that black arrowhead, that's where the gas station piece will be rezoned. It is inconsequential in the development of the gas station. Basically, it's like having a 100 square foot parcel on the gas station piece, which can be developed residential. It's just, for all practical purposes, there's nothing that can be put there pursuant to the new zoning. With regards to the other lots, Ankit owns 2 of the lots. You can see him highlighted in red. He doesn't own any of the other lots. And the other lots are included in the rezoning area. If somebody else wanted to develop them pursuant to the new zoning, they'd be able to. It's as part and parcel of the rezoning. City planning includes lots at the request of the developer, but like in conjunction with the developer, that makes sense to be included. And here, city planning wanted to include and encouraged inclusion of all the lots with residential on them. So yeah, I mean, there's other lots that are included in the rezoning. I don't think there's nothing, nefarious or anything like that. It's basically just that rezonings typically have more than one lot.
Great. Thank you, Richard. That's helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to try Beatrice again. Beatrice Turnbull. Beatrice, I see you have your hand up, and I know you tried to log on. We're going to try you again. I see she signed on in a different way. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to try her this way. Beatrice? You could just unmute yourself. I see you on the screen. Oh, finally. Great. I'm so happy. So go right ahead. It's your time to comment.
All right, so we are the window store next door.
Right. Okay, great. Welcome.
Welcome, how you doing? We've been there for 30 years. Welcome, everybody. And we have been in this neighborhood for a long time, serving this community as a commercial business. This is a very interesting situation because with this rezoning, there's going to be a lot more traffic. And we take a lot of traffic ourselves with tractor trailers and, it's a circus already, just trying to run our business in the zone that we have. And we help out the school. We rent out spaces to the teachers for their parking. So we're going to also eliminate the teacher parking. We're going to create a lot more congestion. And we, as a commercial business in our own zone, it's going to be very difficult for us to operate. So I don't know what this is going to bring upon us. We're not in the rezoning, and that's another discussion. And with one of the other gentlemen said, what's good for the goose is going to be good for the gander in the future. So this 41 unit building is just the beginning of what's to come. So this decision today that everybody's going to make or in the future is going to affect not just this property, it's the corner property, it's the restaurants, it's going to be my building, it's going to be the school across the street. Yeah, this is a big decision here. I know that Councilman Justin said that we need more housing, but we also need space to operate businesses in the neighborhood. And commercial space is limited. And if we take away more commercial space, what is the plan to reallocate space for commercial businesses? Is there another piece of land where you would like us to move to and operate our business and serve our community? Because we've been there for 30, 35, 40 years in the same location, almost 50 years. So this decision that's coming upon us is gonna, you know, it's gonna set a precedence for the next 50 years in the neighborhood. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for coming this evening.
Interesting, important questions.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go to the next speaker. I'm sorry, who's Leon? Okay, Leon, you can hold your space bar down, or you want to try to hit the unmute button. I know you were trying as well. I figured I'd try you again. Okay, all right, we'll move to the next person. Let's see. There's so many people who signed up, and it's just difficult with the, so bear with me. Who do you think next are they? Okay, Sadia Abulasan. Okay, you can unmute yourself. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So my question actually is two questions, and I second what Mr. Beatrice said. It's to the floor area ratio. I don't see where the building's following the floor area ratio. The FAR. It's a square, and it's taking all the size of the whole lot from one avenue to the next, and from one street to the next.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Richard, if you
Joe?
wanted,
Yes.
yes, Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if Richard would answer that.
Sure.
Okay.
So thank you for the opportunity. So the development site is, has frontages on 92nd and on 5th Avenue. And so to the extent that there is a one-story portion with a building in the rear, and then there's a portion on 5th Avenue which sets back on the upper stories, obviously the one-story portion is not filling up any floor area on the portion above the one story. So basically the average out of the entirety of the development site is to an FAR of, I think it's roughly 4.79 something. So, but as a separate calculation, the owner has to go to the Department of Buildings. They have to review the plans. We show city planning what a proposed building is that complies with zoning, and they're not able to, they're not able to get around DOB permitting requirements merely by giving plans to city planning. They're going to have to show DOB that they're using the appropriate amount of floor area for the proposed district, and that's part of the development. But as far as the building that's shown, that building complies with R7A bulk.
Thank you, Richard. Doris, you wanted to,
I just want to let everyone know that the zoning exists, and we, the community board, do not have the power to tell people what they can do with their property. And that this is a limited review. And there are zoning laws in place, and we are discussing this because the community does not want a hotel at that site.
Josephine, if I can have just a minute to just echo what Doris said.
Sure.
I just wanted everyone to know, and it's funny because we do a number of applications before city planning. This was somewhat unique for me in that I was a little bit of an afterthought. I mean, there were discussions that went on about this property that happened before I was even around. And the truth of the matter is that the zoning right now and the permitting right now would allow for this 6-story hotel. And when you talk about density and use and height, you're not just talking about a box. You're talking about a hotel that numbered about 65 to 70 rooms with roughly 3 parking spaces. So I think all those conversations, and it's not just And again, everyone here on our side has been going in good faith. There's just been conversations going back and back and back. That, Keith, to his credit, went to the Department of Buildings, and there's full plans and materials for permits. He could walk into DOB tomorrow, pull permits, and start building next week. But when you talk about density and everything around that, traffic, congestion, etc., there was going to be a 65-room hotel here, and you can imagine what that would engender versus a 41-person residential building. It's like when we hand this to the environmental consultants who are available to us this evening, and they go and do their studies, they look at what you can do as of right versus what you can do under the proposed zoning. And when you show this city planning and the environmental and assessment review division what that traffic pattern would look like, what congestion would look like, particularly for a hotel when you don't have the same luxury of a residential building where people come in and come out. And a hotel, you get a lot of people come in the morning and a lot of people, leaving in the morning, and then a lot of people coming at night and leaving. And so you get these very concentrated traffic patterns, which are really challenging. So again, when Doris said, zoning is zoning and they could build what they can build, it's true. There was, that was the baseline here. And so the discussion, while we understand it and people saying that what is going to do to this corner, you have to look at it in the framework of what they could have done and also what they could still do, even if it wasn't a hotel. It could be a rather large community facility, doctor's office, commercial building. Again, not something that is desired here, but that's why we've got this plan.
And I would just like to restate something that I said when we saw a preliminary discussion of this in February and again earlier this month. The committee felt they were between a rock and a hard place. This is not something we're doing by choice, but considering the option of a hotel, we have to consider what else can be there and how it works.
Okay, great. So Doris, I have a good stack here of public session forms that people had registered for in advance. And, I think I haven't been able to match some of the names here with the names I see on the screen. So I think I'm going to ask anyone who has not, I'm going to lower all hands, and anyone who has not spoken yet before and who would like to have a question or a comment to please raise their hand. Who have not spoken before.
I would like to add something.
Yes.
This is a committee review with public participation. At our next community board meeting in November, we will have what is called a public hearing. So anyone who was not able to convey their concerns tonight can relay them to the district office and they will be discussed and reviewed.
Yes, and we'll also be reviewing emails and the Q&A here tonight. So next I'm gonna go with Joanna Sukar. I know that Ralph spoke, but Joanna did not. So Joanna?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, first of all, Mr. LaBelle, for sitting in. Is there any possible way? We all wish the success of the landowner. I know that. However, the parking facility of any sort would be so beneficial to the area, including the adjacent stores. Is there any way that this gentleman would consider anything like that with a minimum amount of housing, but to also incorporate some sort of parking facility within that building? That's what I'd like to say. And again, we wish him all the success that he deserves. However, please consider the community as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay, so I have one more who I have not allowed to speak. It's just two initials. I'm gonna allow to talk. It's TM. I'd ask that you just introduce yourself and provide us with your name and go ahead, you could proceed.
Sure.
TM, could you tell us who you are, please?
The name is Tamara. I live in Bay Ridge on 79th Street. My concern, I came here for two reasons. One is actually legalized land theft through the buildings department, but I'll address that at another time. However, this particular concern, because I have FDNY family members, it raises a bell because that area is already congested so much right now. As we travel to and from the Verrazano Bridge, we can't even take 92nd to exit Verrazano Bridge. We have to go to 86th Street to get to our house. We continue on, I can't never remember the name of that street, but we continue on to from the Verrazano exit all the way to 86th Street because you cannot turn there because of the traffic, the students, the buses. You have Poly Prep. There's so much at Fort Hamilton. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of the school. I think it is, but you have Fort Hamilton, you have the VA hospital, all in that same area, and they're all fighting to get to and from 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, etc. And now, what boggles me is the fire department is right there. It's a small fire station. How are they supposed to get out and respond in a timely manner if there's a gridlock of congestion in that area? That is, we're now talking about a deadly situation here because God forbid there's a major fire in Bay Ridge. How are they to respond when there's gridlock at 92nd and 5th Avenue? Actually from 92nd, from 4th, all the way down to about Fort Hamilton Parkway. So how would FDNY get out of a gridlock situation to respond to a major fire in Bay Ridge? Is this building worth the entire area burning down because of a low response to a fire?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know if Richard, if you wanted to, or Doris, you wanted to speak to that?
That congestion is currently exists in that area, so I don't know. This will have some impact, but it's definitely a highly congested area, and there are lots of concerns and traffic issues should be addressed, but this is not the forum for it.
Okay, so so Doris, I do have a bunch more speakers, but I don't see them on, and there are no more hands raised. Of people who have not spoken already. There is one person that has called in. I'm going to just allow them to speak because if they wish, it's a 646-331-2929 number. Only because you could, I want you to be able to give you a chance if you'd like to speak to unmute yourself. Do you know the unmuting on a phone? Okay.
Caller, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, caller, would you like to add anything? Okay, dope. So Doris, I think we've gone through everyone who has registered. We've given everyone an opportunity to speak. And maybe you can explain as we proceed during regular committee meetings, what the next process is and what the next steps are.
Right. If we were having a meeting where we're all together in one room, we would close the discussion to the guests, and the committee would discuss, would continue with the discussion and vote. So we will proceed to that. Everyone is welcome to listen to us, but this is our time to discuss the issues. And thank you all for your participation. It's very helpful.
Hello?
Okay.
That's it? We're done?
But we'll be talking for a while, so you're welcome to listen to us if you'd like.
Okay, great. So turn it over to the committee.
Okay, I think some interesting issues were raised, and I think they're issues that we have all looked at and know about. And so I ask any questions or concerns. I have a question for Richard. Richard, are you there? Okay. You said that at the request of city planning, you enlarged the area and included all the other lots, like 11 or something. How was that determined? Did they make the choice? Did you make the choice?
So when we approach city planning for rezoning, we approach with the applicant's property alone. And for every property that's included in a rezoning, we've got to do additional architectural, legal, environmental work, because and also pay additional filing fees. So it's always in the applicant's best interest to from a number standpoint, to keep the rezoning as small as possible. City planning doesn't operate that way. For city planning, it's in their interest to basically make sure that the rezoning represents the context of the area, so that they don't want to be accused of a spot zoning, which basically is just rezoning a parcel or multiple parcels for the benefit of one developer. They need to make sure that when somebody looks at this rezoning afterwards, they say, okay, it made sense. And so it's wrong for me to imply that city planning imposed that on us. They didn't.
Oh.
We basically are required to come up with a land use rationale, include the zoning district boundary, and then at the end of the day, city planning says that's acceptable to us and we move forward. We came in and we currently have these 11 properties. All of those in the applicant's development site have residential in them. And so for city planning, from city planning standpoint, it made sense for them to include them as they would be, they would now be conforming residential uses. Do the rezoning district boundaries change over the course of an application? They do. As the application goes through ULURP, the applicant goes forward with what they feel is an appropriate rezoning area. And sometimes when it gets to city planning or the council, that those zoning district boundary is changed. But what I will tell you for now is that the zoning district boundary was set in conjunction with city planning, but basically reflects that you want to make sure that this is that the rezoning district has context. Just to summarize, having been in court within the last year over rezonings and been challenged as far as spot zonings, everyone's very sensitive about this. You want to make sure that your rezoning really holds water and is just makes sense. And so that's why we included what we included.
Thank you. I see Dean has his hand up.
Dean? You have to unmute yourself.
I unmuted myself. Yeah, I wanted to speak to that because we have two situations we're dealing with now. The applicant's actual proposal, and then an additional burden that's really put on the community by additional parcels being upzoned, which makes them extremely more valuable. And they can come back now and build a 9-10-story building, whatever the case may be. So somebody will be looking at buying up these parcels and doing the same thing over again. So what we have really never discussed is this. Could we approve the developers, the specific plans of the developer, but disapprove of this additional zoning? Now, and then what city planning does, they're going to do. But that will protect the community somewhat with a recommendation like that.
Interesting. I don't know. Any zoning fans? Anybody have any input?
I
don't think you can.
Dean, this is Steve. Dean, the problem with that is that if they build it right now, you're saying like if they would wind up with the hotel. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
I'm saying just approve this
No,
lot.
but it's
No, then that would become
be spot
Richard, help me out.
zoning.
Right.
That would be spot zoning, correct?
It would be spot zoning. Yeah, I don't think you could. You have to approve it all. You can't. I don't think you.
Well, it's not just spot zoning. It's like you can't, if you take this one lot and say we're going to make this into something, that becomes like almost a super spot zoning, and it can't happen.
Right.
It's
Right.
not going to occur. They look at it in context and they say, and I think that Richard just did a pretty good job of explaining it from that point of view. We can't just go, we really like what Richard is proposing, but let's just limit the zoning to that one particular lot.
Can I speak again?
No, this is really for committee discussion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I understand what I'm saying is, to say the least, not traditional, but we can make any kind of motion we want as a community board. And what I'm saying is the least objectionable piece would be if we only approved the developer's residential request and we said we don't want the rest. Now, what city planning is going to do, they're going to do. I know it says it's a spot zone, but it's not city planning asking for a spot zone. It's the community asking for a spot zone. It's a very different approach, which we've never looked at before.
Okay, let's move on. Stephanie?
I was just going to ask if we could reduce the number of lots that would be in the rezoning. And just to bring up again the point that the environmental assessment says that there is no adverse effect from this project, even though it's looking at 11 lots, but it doesn't look at the cumulative impact on the infrastructure, sanitation, schools, transportation, and certainly parking.
Richard, it might be helpful if you could put up that slide with the zoning area that includes the 11 lots. I know, Fayan, if you could do that, that might be a little bit helpful just to visualize, I think, what Stephanie is saying about reducing the size. Maybe just taking a look at the whole zoning area again, just really quickly would be helpful.
Also, I would just add to Dean and Stephanie's point, and everything's above board, and I deal with the public record. There are cases we've done within the last year, 2 years or so, where the community board has recommended a more limited scope of a rezoning, and city planning has responded to that. So zoning district boundaries get adjusted. It's my job as an applicant to put forward what we feel is going to best represent the context of the area and be accepted. But there are cases where that does happen. But again, like it's a deeper conversation that doesn't really have anything to do with us as an applicant, but more has to do with the community board.
So, Richard, so are you saying that you have of cases where the project was cut back at the request of the community?
That's correct.
Yes,
And which is exactly what I'm saying we should do.
So yeah, so that wouldn't create a spot zoning lot. It would create just a smaller impact zone. So instead of the 11, it would be maybe let's say 5 or something. If we asked them to reduce it, so that way there's still contextual zoning happening, but to a lesser extent.
I think what Dean is saying, sure.
I'm concerned about the rezoning on the 92nd Street lots, because 92nd Street is the narrowest street between 4th Avenue is wide, 5th Avenue is not as wide, but 92nd Street is not wide. And to allow development of an R7A building on 92nd Street would be very detrimental. It is, not only is that entire area very congested, but that corner has 4 bus turns, has very poor visibility, and already has a history of traffic problems. So I think adding a 7 to 9 story building on facing 92nd Street would be problematic.
Can you swing it around the other way, Richard? Can you do it like down 91st Street to 4th Avenue instead of down 92nd Street? Was that considered? What was the rationale to go down 92nd?
Yeah, going down 91st Street would have involved, if I'm understanding, from 4th to 5th. I'm sorry, from 5th to 4th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they didn't. The properties that are to the north of us and to the northwest of us are all, none of them are residential, and so rezoning them to mixed-use residential didn't make sense. And they also, there was also environmental ramifications to rezoning intensive commercial and gas station uses. So that's why the only properties included in the rezoning were the ones that were contiguous and residential.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Richard. That was helpful.
Thank you.
You could, maybe we could go back to the group share. Okay. Dean, your hand is still up. I don't know if you.
I just didn't take it down, but you know me, I could talk a lot. But I just want to reiterate what I was saying before, especially from Richard's comments, that my suggestion has been done in the past. So if we want to try to limit the additional lots, we should consider a motion approving only the developer's site and not the rest of the sites. And then let city planning do what they want to do. Maybe they will eliminate it, and maybe they will change it. And then we don't have the problem of a developer coming in, buying up those other properties and putting up another 90-story building. I mean, that is the safest thing we could possibly do.
Josh Vogel is here from City Planning. He has his hand raised. Josh?
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. Just quick comment in regards to the district and to echo what Mr. LaBelle said. So this district, these are all non-conforming buildings right now, legally non-conforming. So they're residential buildings built before 1961 or later when they were rezoned to a district that doesn't allow residential. So part of the rationale for including them in this district was these homeowners would now be in a district that represents the character of their building. If they wanted to get a mortgage or a refinance, that could be a benefit in the long term. The only conforming uses are the current sites, which are parking lots and the gas station, but all those residential buildings currently are in a commercial district. So just wanted to echo that point.
Great, thank you, Josh. Stephanie, you had your hand raised? Oh, you have to unmute, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you. Two questions. Once those homes or buildings become conforming, then they also have the opportunity to grow larger or build larger buildings, and they also would have the mandatory inclusionary housing mandate. Is that correct? So they would have the bonus FAR on all of those? And I guess the other question is, I was just curious as to why an R7A was chosen and not something with a smaller floor area ratio. That's it.
Richard, can you answer that?
Sure. Once those existing multifamily buildings were enlarged, demolished and enlarged or just enlarged, any enlargement would be subject to mandatory inclusionary housing. So the idea is basically that that there's no straight residential benefit from this. It basically is like you're allowed to enlarge, but you need to do it for the benefit of the area by including affordable units. The R7A was chosen for a few reasons. The existing CA2 carries with it a maximum floor area ratio, FAR of 4.8. In the Bay Ridge Special District, you're limited to 3 for community facility uses. So if you were just doing a doctor's office building, you'd have to do a 3 FAR. But for mixed use buildings, you could cap the community facility at 3 and you could go additional to commercial. So what does that really mean? 10,000 square foot lot, let's say you could currently build a 48,000 square foot building, 30,000 square feet of commercial, of doctor's offices, 18,000 square feet of commercial. The R7A was seen as being equivalent to that in being a 4.6 FAR. So the maximum development rights under the existing zoning, 48,000, under the proposed zoning, 46,000. Even if you looked at a maximum commercial FAR, community facility FAR of 3, you're still looking at 30,000 versus 46,000. It's a comparable building type. The other thing very specifically and frankly was that the zoning districts, as you go from an R7D to an R7A, you go 5.6 to 4.6. So what's the next one down from an R7A? It's an R6A at a 3.6, which is, frankly, it didn't provide enough of an incentive for the developer to say, I'm going to abandon my 6-story, 65 unit, hotel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael has his hand raised. Michael Devine.
Hi, how's it going? I got a question for Mr. LaBelle about the environmental studies. Did they consider the traffic impacts? And if they did they consider them between sort of the no change scenario, the scenario with the hotel, and then the current proposed scenario?
Yes, so Rob Green, I see, just came off mute. Rob is an environmental consultant at Equity Environmental Consulting, who's able to talk about all the impacts. So just to give you the cliff notes, there's an environmental assessment statement that's performed. It's, numbers over 250 pages, and it looks at over 26 different impact categories, including traffic and parking. I will let Rob discuss this far more eloquently than I can, but essentially my understanding is that there was a negative determination was issued that given what they look at as the margin, they look at the spread between what you can do and what you do with the rezoning. Given that spread, it was found to not have a significant environmental impact. Rob, can you speak to that?
Sure. Hi, Richard. So the question that Michael had was comparing I guess, what's existing and what could be built with the hotel and what could be built now with the proposed project. So what we actually evaluated was the proposed project, which you saw the plans for, and what exists there now. And so the city asked you to look at what the most conservative analysis would encompass. And so instead of comparing the hotel to that building plan you saw with the 41 dwelling units, we compared the 2 empty parking lots to this, the maximum building that you could build. So instead of the 41 dwelling units that you saw in the plans, we actually looked at the maximum that you could build, which is 50 dwelling units. And then we also assumed that other sites in that area would also develop because of the rezoning, which I see everyone is kind of concerned, some of the neighboring lots would build. So we actually worked with the city to develop a full build out of what would reasonably be built. And so traffic actually, according to the Seeker technical manual, which is Seeker, the City Environmental Quality Review, it screens out. But so I started seeing some of the comments pop up in the Q&A that people were concerned about traffic. So I actually just now, when everyone was talking, I ran like a preliminary traffic analysis for you, and just kind of using, I guess, generic, dwelling units and local retail, which is what we assumed for the ground floor for this building. It would actually generate about 10 vehicle trips in the morning, 8 in the afternoon, and then 10 more in the evening, just using standard factors, assuming that some people would take cars, some people would take bus, some people would take subway, and those factors are actually taken from representative samples of Bay Ridge and the Community District 10. And so that's what people have reported in the most recent census, or I think the most recent 2014 to 2018 American Community Survey. And so people from that area have reported and said, this is how I travel to work. This is how I travel in the afternoon. And so when you run that through the simulation, the transportation model, it comes up with 10 trips in the morning, and then which is actually very far below what the city requires, like a detailed analysis for. And so that's what was compared with what exists right now and what could be built at the maximum capacity under this rezoning.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Robert. Let's see. Anthony Marino has his hand up.
Hey, thanks. Richard, I have a very simple question. If none of this rezoning happens and you can't build this residential building, the only option is a hotel, correct?
I'd say that the most likely option is a hotel, because that's
fine. No, that's perfect. Right. The most likely option is a hotel.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's plans and materials. I mean, this is, he's got permits.
No, I'm just trying to simplify it to really the most, all this is a great conversation, but really it's like a rental building where people can live or a hotel. And so I just want to kind of make it a little bit more black and white, and thank you. Thank you.
Dean, your hand is still up. Is that because you have a new question, or did you forget to take it down? You're on mute, Dean.
It's down.
Okay. Doris, I see no more hands raised here. Oh, Barbara has her hand raised. I'm sorry. Barbara?
I think Dean's suggestion is good. Go for this, throw it back to city planning, see what they say. Because the congestion aspect is tremendous.
Thank you. I think what we know historically, that just approving this lot is not gonna happen. Maybe we just want to do something with options, say, we would like them to consider reducing the number of lots.
Anthony, is your hand back up again?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so Doris, to go with that, all right, I say, maybe we go with Dean, we go for, a Hail Mary and say, listen, we seem most concerned with the buildings on 92nd Street. So maybe we go from the building, the lot in question down to the corner, and then those buildings that are next to it, say, if you could reduce those at least so that it's off 92nd Street and keep it just to the avenue, then that'll reduce the number of buildings affected by the rezoning. And then we won't have a spot zoning. And maybe that's the option. But I think, asking for anything less than that is going to be, I think, problematic.
Thank you.
In terms of being spot zoning. Sorry, thank you.
Lori?
Lori.
Lori's hand's up. You have to unmute, okay.
I am muted, thank you. Just because I know that this is the committee discussion, but I do see many comments going back and forth. And so I was hoping that maybe we could give some clarification for those who are listening in. If we kept, what the current zoning would permit in the lots that surround this development site for which we are considering this application, how big they could build up or what they could build if the residential units that are now non-conforming were knocked down, compared to what they could build if this area were rezoned, so that everyone understands what the law permits. Because we don't get to say, hey, this is what we want, and we have carte blanche to restrict people from using their properties within what the law provides, which is the zoning. So if we could just get a clear understanding for everyone of what the current zoning would permit for those adjoining lots and what it would permit if they were rezoned, so everyone really understands what we're dealing with, that would be great.
Well, the current zoning only allows commercial development. So if anything were to change it, it would have to be commercial.
Right, but in terms of height, in terms of, is really, I think what people are concerned about the scale.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's C8 is a very dense commercial zoning.
Right.
Exact height, maybe Justine and Steve are probably better at this than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull, yeah, Dorothy's gonna get the book, but off the top of my head, I know the C8, the community facility is capped at 70 feet. The commercial, she's gonna pull out the FARs. I don't know if Richard has them handy, but we're gonna pull them.
I just wrote it down. Richard's at the I lost my note.
Wasn't it 4? Was it 4.8?
4.8. 4.8.
So the commercial FAR is 2. The community facility FAR caps out at 3. Mixed-use building caps out at 4.8. And in case anyone is interested and needs to sleep well tonight, you can look in the zoning resolution. It's section 114-11.
Thank you.
Sure.
Right, the only caveat I would say in the special Bay Ridge district, for if it's not a commercial use, exclusively community facility, there is a height restriction of 70 feet.
Correct. So that's the Bay Ridge Special District text limits the community facility portion to 3, but the total FAR for a community facility building in its is to 4.8.
Thank you. I'm thoroughly confused.
Oh, it's confusing.
But,
You know, I actually looked at the numbers when we were just thinking about on Keith's site, and it's that using those ratios, The current proposal is 45,300 square feet at 9 stories. The existing as of right zoning for a mixed use commercial and community facility building would be 47,280 square feet at 7 stories. So you end up with a slightly bulkier building.
And a hotel.
And a hotel.
That's the hotel, right? Okay, thank you.
A hotel is occupied. The hotel was at a 2 FAR, so the commercial would cap out for the hotel at roughly 20,000 square feet. So a hotel could be a portion of another building, but the hotel that was proposed here was a 20,000 square foot, 6-story hotel.
Okay, so I just wanted everyone to get an idea of, the size of the building. When people are saying, say no to this, just you have to compare it to, well, what else could possibly be there within the limits of the law, and to understand what our function here is. So I just wanted most, people in the public and the community to understand what our function here is, and really that we operate within the zoning laws. We can't just willy-nilly tell people yes and no what they can do with their property all the time.
Isn't it true that Richard, that the top 2 stories of the residential building are also set back?
Correct. The top 2 stories are set back.
So that the appearance from the ground would be 7 stories, which would be the same as the hotel, correct?
Correct. Just to add, because this has been a great conversation for me personally, but I just want everyone to know 92nd Street, because there's been some discussion on that side. The property is a through property, so there is a portion on 92nd Street. There are 3 additional buildings to the west of the property, but the property, it's like when you look at that L, the rezoning for the L, there's like a portion that juts out, and then there's the tail end of the L on 92nd is not the applicant's property.
Right, so but beyond the tail, so it's kind of like a square almost from the 92nd Street portion and 5th Avenue. And then there are 3 additional property, I think that Stephanie was referring to, is that kind of creates that additional area, which is really more of a mid-block. We've always looked at, when we look at the commercial overlays in the district, the contextual zoning, there's typically, off the avenue, 100 feet, 150 feet, the overlapping of the, 5th Avenue, the avenue zoning. And the mid-block has always been a little bit different in terms of height and bulk and density, which is, hearing what Stephanie and Dean were saying, that extended area onto 92nd Street really distinguishes it, and it's be kind of more square if you limited it to the end portion of the property to 5th Avenue. Lori, do you have your hand up again, or you didn't take it down? Okay. Doris, I guess I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, Barbara, is your hand up again, or is it still up? So we
Does
have.
Barbara have her hand up? I'm sorry, Doris.
Yeah, Barbara, do you mean to have your hand up, or did you forget to take it down? Okay, I'm going to move along, and if Barbara can interrupt me if we need it. We have discussed this several times. As I repeat, as I said in 2 reports, we're between a rock and a hard place. We've had some input. We will go through some of the comments to see if there's anything more that's pressing. Does anyone want to make a motion? Dean has your hand.
This is Dean. Do we want to make a motion to advise to see if we can shrink the zoning area?
Yeah, so before I make the actual I can make the motion, then we could discuss it. So my motion would be that we approve the developer's plans for the residential building and disapprove the additional, the expanded zoning as presented by the Department of City Planning. That in order that the zoning change only, that the additional properties be removed from the zoning change, which will give us just the residential building. Well, I mean, we have to reword it, but that's what I suggest we do. And what Richard said before was actually, pretty good news. It has been done.
I wonder if we could take his motion and change it to maybe specific addresses that we are looking to in 92nd Street that we would want removed from. So being a little bit more specific with it, I think that if we flat out ask for approval of one and rejection of all the others.
Well, Anthony, you're referring to those 3 properties on 92nd Street.
Yeah, I
correct?
don't have a map in front. Yeah, I don't know the addresses off the top of my head.
Wait,
I only suggest, Dean, that maybe we be a little bit more specific, because I feel like if we just ask for what really kind of looks like a spot zoning, they might sort of reject it outright.
What's the alternative? I don't understand the alternative that you're suggesting.
So maybe looking at specific addresses or.
No, I guess,
something.
Anthony, I just want to clarify. So Dean, what Richard was saying, that the rezoning area, the building affronts both Fifth Avenue and 92nd Street. So you cannot restrict, you can't restrict, and I think Josh had mentioned that and others, that would be limiting just a lot would be considered spot zoning.
Right.
And what we were kind of talking about, what Anthony was saying, is squaring it off so that you do have that section of the building on 92nd Street and the front of Fifth Avenue, almost like a square, and kind of just eliminating that mid-block of 92nd Street, the 3 properties there.
That would not be my motion, because we still have the same problem with those additional lots. I say we just go for only the developer's project. Let city planning do what they're gonna do.
Okay, Steve, unmute yourself. Steve,
Why? Why am I doing that?
Because your hand
Your hand's up.
Oh, my hand should be down.
Oh, come on, Steve. You got something brewing.
So anyway, we would need a second to the motion anyway.
Before I have a question, one last question for Richard Lobel. You there, Richard?
Please.
There are two ULIP reference numbers, 447 and 448. Why?
The way that rezonings have gone since 2016 is that you've got the primary application, which is for the actual rezoning from CA2 to R7AC24. And then you have a text amendment application to map the affected area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area, so that any residential development there moving forward would need to be affordable housing or include affordable housing. So it's just the rezoning and the text amendment.
Okay, thank you. I've been meaning to ask that for a month.
Glad I could be of service.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so.
So, I would make the motion even a little bit simpler. Maybe we would make it that we approve the request for the residential building only. I don't know if that simplifies it or not.
I don't have my hand up.
Do you want to put it up?
Oh, saying my fear is when we phrase it like that, is that they say no.
Yeah.
And we've approved it, and then as a result of that, we lose we throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Agreed.
The goal here, the primary goal here, more than anything else, is to make sure it's not a hotel. The developers have worked with us to this point, and while I don't mind something that would be advisory along the lines of, but we approve of this, but we would like the city planning to look and see if there's some way that they can cut back on the 92nd Street. But I think we should have said but otherwise we approve, but we do believe that, I think that it should be an addendum, but outright we should say yes, that we approve the request. Because otherwise I fear that somewhere along the line here, we're going to lose this. And as Richard points out, they literally have, Richard, tell me if I'm wrong, you actually can get those permits in a matter of no time, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on the website, on DOB's website. There's a zoning diagram approved. He's ready to pull permits.
Yeah, and so I'm very concerned that by what I consider at this point diddling around about this, right? I don't mind in any way, shape, or form of saying that we would like to city planning, if there's any way that they could cut back on those over there, yes, but we approve of it nonetheless.
So why don't we do this, that we approve of the developer's request for the residential building, but disapprove of the additional zoning plots that are included. So we're saying outright, we approve of the residential aspect of it.
I think, Dean, if I'm not wrong here, you can't just say that we approve of the residential aspect of it because it's not in a residential zone right now. We have to say that we approve something about the zoning. If we don't say that we're approving something about the zoning, we're saying, well, we don't want that zoning. It's basically that equivalent. It's saying we don't want the zoning, but we approve of the residence. And they say, fine, but you can't build it in that zone. So I think we're kind of stuck here. We have to make the determination: do we want the hotel? Do we want the residential building? I see many of the questions that people are asking out there, and I know that Beatrice next door, I know other people are saying that this is going to be very large and that kind of thing. But what's going to be built is going to be larger. All right, that can be built there. So all the arguments about fire, all the arguments about it's a big building, they all disappear because the building that will be built if we don't do this is going to be a larger building that will be a commercial building. Under those circumstances, I think we have to say that we approve the new zoning. It doesn't mean that we can't ask them to cut the zoning, but it has to be phrased in terms of
Yeah,
zoning approval.
I agree. I agree with Steve. I think it's important to try to scale it back, but ultimately a residential building, I think, is going to be better than a transient hotel that when it's vacant, it's going to be turned into who knows what, and then it's going to be a whole other can of worms. At least we have a developer who's going to own the building. People are going to live in the neighborhood, become a part of the community, hopefully, and But yeah, let's see if we can request to scale it back.
So could we word it then? We approve of the zoning change for the proposed residential building, but disapprove of any changes for any additional zoning lots.
I think what people are saying is no. And, that phrasing it that way is not going. It is not getting support from the committee.
Yeah, it's functionally equivalent to saying that we approve the zoning, but we don't. And there's the problem. I mean, you can make, like I'm saying, you can, if you want to add some kind of a statement to it that we approve the zoning. We appreciate it if the city could look at it and see if they could cut it down on 92nd Street. That's the right approach. I can't see anything else working.
Well, listen, I disagree, but I've made my case and I'm going to withdraw the motion, but I think it's a mistake not including it in the motion.
Well, the problem with it, if I can just say it, Dean, if we prove it in the motion and they disapprove it, then we have to go through this process again. I am not sure that the developer will look upon that kindly. And so I think that we have to look at where we are. We are caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think that we have to pick one or the other. And I'm going to pick the hard place because it's softer than the rock, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I understand what you're trying to do, Dean. I want that to be.
Yeah, completely agreed, Dean. We understand.
Okay, so Dean has removed, do I have a new motion?
So
Well,
oh, yeah, go ahead, Steve, go for it.
No, because then we can discuss it. I would just move that we approve the application as written. Okay, and that in addition to approving the application as written, that we ask the DM to compose a letter asking that while we approve, we would appreciate it if they could look at it and see if they could reduce or in some way eliminate. I'm not sure quite what the word would be, but in some way reduce the impact of the zoning on 92nd Street.
Reduce the size on 92nd Street?
Yes.
Or scale, maybe scale back.
Right,
okay.
scale back might
Yeah,
work.
scale.
Okay, you need a second.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks, Anthony.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. Anthony, any comments?
Yeah, I would just say that maybe we, sorry, no, real quick, that maybe we actually look at addresses and include the addresses of what we're.
I will do that.
Okay, yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody writing down the
Yeah,
motion?
I'm
so we
writing
can
it down. Dorothy and I were writing, we got it.
I have a third of it.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, we're voting, we're discussing.
Could we just write it, could we read it back so we all know what we're voting on?
So it's a motion to approve the ULURP application that's presented before us. I'm not going to read the numbers.
As written.
As written. And additionally, we will request the Department for City Planning to look at the possibility of reducing the size or scale back the impact, reduce the size or scale back 92nd Street portion of the rezoning application.
Yes. And we have a second, right? Who's the
And
second?
Anthony seconded it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, do you want to pull
All in
the,
favor? Can we just raise our hands?
you want to raise your hands so I could see you? All in favor?
Committee
Okay.
members?
Okay, so I have Michael, yes, Anthony, Barbara, Steve, Stephanie, Susan, and Wei.
Oh, hi, Wade.
Jane. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay. Opposed? Dean? Okay. Recusals? Motion carries. Abstentions? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. So
Great
Doris,
job,
if you-
great job.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's a rough one.
Yep.
Richard, thanks for everything. Thanks for the info.
So then I just want to add to everyone, so this will be on the agenda for the November 16th general board meeting, in the public hearing section of the meeting. I want to thank everyone for attending, and we will also be looking at if there are any additional questions that come in. We'll certainly pass them along to Richard or to the committee, to wherever they're appropriate. So thank you.
I would just, before we sign off, because I see that Ina is still on from the Borough President's Office. And I would like you to note, just be our caveat, we approve it, but we would like to have it reviewed and have those lots looked at. Because the Borough President's having his public hearing before the full board meets.
Okay, I absolutely understand that. And if you would like to have a consultation with Richard Barrick, Director of Land Use.
Oh.
Any of these issues, we're absolutely available to assist you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Anna.
much. Okay.
Josephine, thank you. That was,
You're very
know,
very
just-
welcome.
Meeting, Joe.
Thank you, Doris. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
all
Dean.
so-
Thank you, Dean.
So we need a motion to adjourn, I guess, right?
I make
Thank you,
a motion
Josh.
to adjourn. Say goodnight, Zoe.
All right. All right. Good night, Zoe.
Good night, Zoe.
Good night.